Hey everybody, it's Colin from Track Attack, and today for Paddock Review, we're going to be taking a peek inside the Safe Auto Vault yet again. This time, we're going to be looking at one of the most powerful American production cars ever produced. I'm not even sure where to start with this thing. I'm actually pretty excited to get a really up close and personal look on this car. This is the first chance I've had to really get up and close personal with these things. They're kind of rare right now. They just came out, and there's a lot going on with this car in terms of the aero, the styling, everything. So let's start with the front here. So this is a performance car, obviously, first and foremost. So there's a lot in the front that will allude to that. Right off the bat, you see this giant front splitter, has the Shelby kind of in it there. It's really cool. You obviously have the kind of dive planes on the side there for aerodynamics, which is great. Lots of vents to suck it in the air, cool the brakes, radiators, all sorts of things like that. In fact, you can even see lots of ducts here right in the front, kind of on the either side of the little snake badge there. So there's clearly a lot of engineering in terms of airflow and cooling happening at the front. Now also you can see here in the hood there's lots of vents to try to get heat out and probably aerodynamics to push air through and out of the hood and over top of the roof of the car. Now of course, what would any good performance car be without a massive set of brakes? So right away it really hits you in the face, these giant red Brembo calipers. The other really interesting thing you can look at is the rotor itself. They didn't go with any sort of exotic composite or anything like that. It's just a solid cast metal rotor. There's no cross drilling, nothing in it, which is really good. They just went with what works, nothing fancy. Good for you, Ford. And of course, what would any good sports car be without a big wing? So if you look at the back of the car here, we have a nice big functional wing. It's also got the little extra flap on it to probably add a little more downforce. Now, interesting though, you can tell this car is not equipped with the track pack, so it has the smaller wing, which is kind of funny because this isn't exactly a small wing. But of course, if you have the optional track package, it comes with the giant flat GT4 style wing on the back. This car doesn't have it, but for the aesthetics and the looks, I much prefer this wing anyway. So if the owner's not going to track it, I think he definitely made the right choice. Now, the one place I really want to get up close and personal with in this car is the interior. So let's check it out. Now the first thing I have to say is this interior is actually not a bad place to be. It's actually pretty nice. Now traditionally Mustangs weren't exactly known for their top tier interiors, but this one's actually not bad. Now we know the Mustangs have obviously gotten a lot better over the years. This current generation from the GT all the way up to here, they have nice interiors. But this one obviously has been dressed up a bit being the GT500. And right off the bat, first thing we have to say is the seats. These Recaros are really, really nice. They're super comfortable. The Alcantara is really nice on them. They have good bolstering for the legs and the side here, and they aren't over bolstered. I find sometimes the bolstering, especially here on the side, sticks out too far, and when you're trying to drive, your elbows keep getting caught on them. This actually isn't bad at all. I like the style of them too. They're really kind of sporty, racy, but they don't have that really gaudy sort of overdone look like in some of the hypercars. So it's quite nice actually. And then of course you have here in the dash, there's a nice bit of carbon fiber insert on the dash. It's not overdone, looks nice and classy, adds a bit more to the interior. Alcantara wrapped wheel is quite nice with the little leather piece at the top. It's got the brand new sort of Mustang gauge cluster in here that lights up. It's a big LCD display. Looks pretty nice. So again, I wouldn't compare this to a hypercar or a supercar. It's not that nice of an interior, but the thing is, it's still a very nice place to be. Be a very nice, comfortable drive for a long trip, I'm sure. And the seats are set up such that you're in a good driving position. So if you want to rip around the track in this thing, it'll do that as well and keep you in place while doing so. Okay, now that we've looked at the interior, let's look at the best part of any pony car, the engine. Actually, let's look at this first. As I got out, I noticed that. That's actually really cool. So if you look, it's got the light little Cobra display on the ground. You can see it moves from the door here. It's really, really cool. Nice little touch. It's nothing all that special, but you know what? When you get out, it kind of reminds you what you're driving. And I think if you're really passionate about the car you own, that is a really, really nice little touch for sure. Now that we're at the front of the car, the first thing you notice is these two little black buttons. So it seems like Ford want to keep this in very race car, muscle car sort of fashion, and they're kind of like hood pins. So basically you hit the lever inside the car, and now what you have to do is you have to push these two buttons down. They're a bit tricky to push. And then now we can find the lever, and we can show the supercharged V8 that sits up front here. Now, as soon as you look in here, the first thing I notice, of course, is the big strut tower bar they have there with a lot of extra bracing by the looks of it. Again, shows that they clearly wanted this thing to go around corners and do it well. The other thing I noticed is that is a big engine, especially with that supercharger sitting on top. It takes up a lot of real estate under the hood here. Kind of explains why this is a big car now. Not a lot of space to work on the engine. I noticed that right away too. It's pretty tightly packed in there. So I definitely wouldn't want to be the person that has to work on this. Now, of course, this is a supercharged V8 making 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque that Ford aptly calls the Predator. They obviously wanted to hunt down other cars in the track and eat them. Now, of course, the thing is, this car is very capable of doing so when you look at the power figures, but it needs that much power. Since this car weighs 4,200 pounds, that's almost 400 pounds heavier than the Camaro ZL1 1LE, and that's not a light car. Now, with all that power, of course, it generates a lot of heat. Ford engineered lots of air openings. In fact, it has double the airflow as the regular GT350. So that way you get increased cooling in the engine, and the rear diffusers also use composites, so that way they have better thermal management. The Shelby GT500 is just another entry in the ever-growing list of American super performance cars. Back in the day, Mustangs were just quarter-mile kings, but let's face it, that's no more. With all the new Shelbys coming out, from the 350, the 350R, and of course this one. This car does it all. It's got the power, it's got the aero, it's got the looks, and you know what, at the end of the day, it puts the lap times down. So we have to say, Ford Mustang is not a Ford Mustang anymore. Now this thing is a lap time slaying monster. Now, with all that being said, what do I think about this car? Frankly, would I ever purchase one and own one if I had the funds available to do so? No, I wouldn't, and this is why. Obviously, it's a fantastic car. It's super fast. It's badass. It is a great car. It's an awesome track weapon, and that's what I'm all about. However, with that being said, if I was going to start spending the about $120,000 MSRP in this car, and then you have to factor in dealer markups, this car gets pretty expensive pretty quick. The thing is too, at the end of the day, this still is a Mustang. It's not as exotic as a Porsche. It's not a Lamborghini or Ferrari. It still is a domestic car, and at the end of the day, you can't get away from that fact. So, if I'm going domestic, I definitely want bang for the buck because that's what they're all about. Yes, this car is a great deal for that. However, I would prefer the Camaro ZL1 1LE because performance-wise, it's just on the heels of this car for a lot less money. Now, that's my opinion on this car. Please comment in the section below the video and let us know what you think about this car. Would you buy it for that money? Do you already have one? What's your experience with it? Please share your comments and your insights. We'd love to hear it, guys, and interact with you. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe as always, because you don't want to miss what we're going to be pulling out of the vault to review next week. Thanks, and we'll see you at the track.